my guest tonight. He's from Yonkers, New York. He started out as a DJ. He worked his way to becoming one of the most successful guys. Um, who was a part of the Ruff Ryder production team in the '90s as well. Grammy nominated producer. He's worked with DMX. He's worked with Big Pun, The Lots, Busta Rhymes, Remy Ma, Diddy, and so many more of your favorite artists. You recently won your case that we're going to talk about. We're going to get into a little about later on against the label Ruff Ryders for royalties that you felt like was owed to you. You produced one of the greatest records of all time, one of my favorite records by DMX to date. Slippin. Everyone on the check-in, please help me welcome DJ Shok. Show him some love in the comments, man. My brother, we appreciate you for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
I know you and I had spoke, and you were getting over COVID, man. So how's your health, man? First and foremost.
Yeah, man, it was crazy. I finally got it after all this time. I hadn't gotten it yet, and so it was like, it's in a sense, I kind of feel like at some point I was gonna get it. It almost feels like it's gonna come around at some point. So I finally got it, and I'm starting to feel better now, and which is why I'm having tea actually instead of a drink with you tonight, which I apologize, but I want to make sure like I get better, and that was one of the things I thought keep my immune system up and just stay as healthy as possible, because I'm not the biggest health fanatic to begin with, so I gotta like try and start taking better care of myself too.
Absolutely, man. Health as well. You know what I mean? And I know it was like one of those things where like you were trying to dodge it. And that's the thing. We were running away from it for so long. And I never shared this with anyone else, but a couple of weeks ago, I had the virus as well.
Oh,
so,
wow, okay.
Going through 2 years of, when you find, it's a lot, you know what I mean? So, but we're glad that you're here. You know what I mean? You're getting through, and we're glad to have this conversation, man. So I just want to get that out the way first. We got a lot to get into, and this is our first time ever speaking, so,
yes.
I want to touch on, before we get into all of the other stuff, the Ruff Ryders, all the records, I just want to touch on Miguel Gomez, right? A kid from Yonkers, New York, who, decided, this is what I want to do. I want to become a DJ / producer. How did kind of your musical journey start?
Ever since I was a little kid, like really like a toddler, I always was attracted to music and rhythm, and like one of the funny stories when I was a little kid is I'm probably just maybe like 1.5 or 2, and I had this little drum, and my mom said it had like one of the Muppets on it, like the drummer, and like I kept banging on it so much that my dad was like, "Cállate, hijo puta," that's like, I don't know if anybody knows Spanish, but so instead of me doing anything, I must have been like 2 or 3 probably, and because I was already talking, so I was probably like 3. So then I made a beat out of it. So I was like, hijo puta, and I thought that sounded dope in my head. So I just kept repeating hijo puta, hijo, and boom boom bat bat boom boom bat bat. So that just shows you, like, ever since I was little, I was always basically, attracted to rhythm, music. I would take the cassette. My dad used to have a cassette recorder, like a portable one in his closet. I would take it out, record things. I opened it up. I broke a couple. Thankfully he bought me new ones, and I experimented. I would do stuff with the home stereo, like try to like, and this is like, I'm probably like in the 1st grade when I'm doing all that, and I was trying to like mix, because I wanted to be a DJ early, because my mentor actually, Aldo Marin, who's the guy who started Cutting Records, which is like, a super influential independent label in New York. They like, one of the hip hop classics they have is Al Nafish. It's the one that goes, "It's time." that joint, and
Uh
that's like a
huh.
classic joint. So that's
Hmm.
on his label, and he DJ'd my sister's Sweet 16, and that's when I was probably like 6 or 7, around that age, because they're about 10 years older than me, and that was the first time I saw a DJ, and that was what made me start really digging in and messing with the stereo and trying to figure stuff out. And he ended up being my mentor, and I used to go to his record store uptown, uh, from like 12, 13, 14 years old, and I was DJing, renting out halls, throwing parties, and I was obsessed with like all the big shows like Red Alert. Is a big influence of mine. I used to record as a little kid, in my room. I had a box, so on the box I would record Kiss, which would be like Red Alert or Chuck Chill Out or the Latin Rascals, because they would
Going
alternate.
crazy. They
And
was
then I
going
would,
crazy.
and then in the living room I would be recording Marley Marl on BLS, because they was at the same time. Sometimes not like, and then Red changed. Like the times changed, but sometimes they were on at the same time, like on a Friday, and I wouldn't want to miss nothing. So I would just, and I would have spend my allowance on cassette tapes. There was like a little Chinese store in Getty Square in Yonkers,
Hmm.
and I used to go to the square after school, and I would buy blank tapes. The lady knew me. Like I would go in, and she would just, every week I would buy blank tapes because I wanted to keep. I didn't want to erase everything, that I
Hmm.
had. So I would just keep recording. And like I idolized all those guys, and they blew my mind. And at 10 years old, I had my first decks. My first techniques, not 12s, but a cheap little set. It was like the ones with the belt drives they would use, and I had like it was a Spear Sonic mixer, which I can't even find it online. I remember it was Spear Sonic. It's like I can't even find that online, but it was like, just something to get started with. And I had the fever, and I stayed with it. And from there, producing, I at 16 I started producing, and that's why I kept even though I don't DJ so much, DJ stayed on there because I still would DJ. Up, I started doing some clubs and stuff like in after that, from like 18 to like 24. I was doing clubs in the city, but I kept the DJ because that's how I started. And then I always thought about like DJ Premier, like he was another person I looked up to. So I kept the DJ in there, and but making beats, I was just like obsessed with it. Like once I saw how you make beats, something clicked in my brain, and it was just like I was like, oh my God, I can actually make the records that DJs play. And it was
Right.
just it was just incredible to me. Like, wow, that's blew my mind.
Came together like a full circle moment.
Yeah.
Um, can you recall the first beat that you did for what? Let's just say your first placement. Can you recall your first placement and who was it for?
Yeah, like the first thing I ever like recorded and mixed was like a neighborhood guy. It was called The Wanted One, and his name was Quest. And that was like something he paid for. It was like in 92 or 91 or 92. I was still in high school, and we just put that out. He paid for it, and we just sold that like as is, like like they say, out of the trunk. And that was my first release. And then my first major release was in 94 on Sony Continuum with the group called Raw Breed. And that one was really cool because that one featured Godfather Don. Cool Keith was on there, which is someone I idolized because growing up listening to Red Alert so much, like Cool Keith did promos. And like Cool Keith, I mean, Ultramagnetic was like a big deal to me. So like I did that record with Cool Keith, and then Melly Mel was on there, which of course we all know, Melly Mel, The Message, and so many other hits. And that was pretty dope, to have a major release. In '94, I was like really making beats at that point, probably I'm gonna say for about 4 years, but I only had my own equipment for like 2 years. From '92, I got my own setup to make beats like in my basement in '92. So I was making beats for about 2 years, and then I got my first placement. Like,
Wow, wow, that's big. That's big because you have folks who be doing it for a long time before they get their first placement.
Yeah,
So,
but it was like when I got the you know what was funny about it? Even though I had just did it for 2 years, the beats, it was
mhm,
funny because I had planned so many beats while I was trying to save up for my equipment and get it that I had like the way a DJ, like for example, like when we would DJ when it was vinyl, like you,
mhm,
at least I did this. I can't say everybody did, but I might not have planned out the whole night, but like the peak, I had a crate of the peak so I could fly through it and like just go nuts, and just like really get the crowd going. So I
mhm,
did the same thing. So when I got my equipment, I would have like four records that I kept together because one had a drum loop, one had a sample, and I already had plans. So when I got the equipment, I already had like maybe five or six at least that I was like, yo, I want to use these drums with this bass line, with this. And then I just had to learn to use the equipment. So it was kind of like, it was 2 years, but it was like planned on like for a long time, And I would go to my cousin's house and practice because he had an Ensoniq, and that's the
mhm.
first place I ever made a beat. So, but yeah, I guess it was pretty dope. I mean, I was pretty fortunate, like for 2 years having my own equipment and then actually getting a placement.
And then getting place, yeah. And then having like the basic stuff at that. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Um, so you're doing your thing in New York as a DJ. You're coming up as a producer, and then couple. Put it back on the screen again. That was a drink. That was a drink. Oh, okay. I thought you
yeah.
had flashed something. I thought you were showing us something. I'm
Oh
like,
no, no,
I
no.
thought we were getting like a CD or something you were showing us for a second. That's just tea. Um, so you're doing your thing, and then I'm not sure what year it was. You could let us know the year, but then this major change happened in your career, and you
that
become
that was
um,
94.
94. When you signed to Ruff Ryders?
Oh no, no, I thought you meant for that record. Okay.
Yeah, I'm saying that at this. So you're doing your thing as a producer.
Hmm.
You're coming up as a producer and a DJ on the New York scene, and then this big change happens in your career, and you signed to Ruff Ryders as a producer, in-house producer. Major accomplishment. What was the process? What first off, what year it was, and what was the process for you walking into that moment in your career?
Well, it took a while. I mean, to get to that point. So after I did that my first release in '94, I started an independent label. It was called Mass Vinyl, and we put out a lot of independent records, and we would do like college promotions, basically out of the basement. And like back then, it was like Hits, CMJ, Gavin, and we would chart and get college play with all the independent records. Like the most popular one I did back then was High Tech 24/7. And that did really well. Red Alert was playing that. Flex played that. Ladies Night played that. It took us all the way to Romania to like do a show in Romania. We had the Bay Area, Sway in the Morning. They were burning it, and that was all independent. And then I had a lot of stuff I did on another independent label called Official Joints. Shout out to them because I mean I probably did, I don't know, at least 6 7 records.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, on Official Joints. And so I was making my rounds, and one of the owners of Ruff Ryders, Joaquin, was a friend of a mutual friend of our, we had a mutual friend, this guy Isaiah, and Isaiah also used to spit, and he was on my independent label, and he would bring Joaquin around once in a while to the basement, um, and he liked like my production, and he wanted to sign me a couple times, but this is probably like in 96, 97, around there.
Mm-hmm.
And but it was like I felt at that time like I was actually felt like I had my stuff more together than they did at the time because I was like, I had an independent label, we were putting stuff out, we were doing stuff. And when I went over to the Rough Rider studio, it was like some it wasn't like they had like they at a certain point they had everything real tight, but at that point they didn't. Let's just leave let's put it that way. So I wasn't like in a rush to sign because I was like, this is cool, but I mean, why would I sign right now? It didn't really have a reason.
Hmm.
So I kept going though, like once in a while playing beats, and at a certain point, um, I'd been coming around playing beats, and Wild was like interested in signing me, like I said, and at one night he took me down basically stairs, and he was like, "Yo, let me play you something." And at this point, it's like 98, um, and Only Get At Me Dog came out, and it didn't really like blow up gigantic yet. It was just like on the underground,
Hmm.
and he played me X's whole album, and I was like, I just speechless. Like I was like, oh my God, this is like I knew that that album was like gonna be so impactful. The production, shout out to PK Grease. The production on there was just phenomenal, and I was like, I want to be with these guys. Like, forget about just musically. Um, it was just like I don't know, man. To this day, I remember that listening to that album the first time in his car. Like, it's one of those memories that are like imprinted in your brain,
Hmm.
and it is like a very meaningful moment for me to hear that first album in his car. And after I took his number again, to make sure, and I was like, yo, I want to sign. I was like, let's just do it. And so at that point, we started the paperwork and everything to actually sign to them. And I kept coming while I was working on paperwork. I kept coming around, and I got a feel for the situation, and I was playing beats and meeting everybody and just kind of like starting to blend in. But they wouldn't actually, until I was signed, they wouldn't actually take a beat or use it for anything until the paperwork was done. So I had to kind of wait until that happened.
Business side. Dope
Yeah.
lights. Dope lights, by the way.
That went
I
it
hope you
went
don't
to
mind the
sleep.
shades. My lights are like really bright, so I said my eyes are like sensitive to the light, so I didn't want to
It's all good.
disrespectful when I threw those on. Man, that's dope. So it's about 98. You get your foot in the door. You hear X's first album before it's released. You see the vision. Um, okay, so do you moving on, right? So can you recall the first record, right, that you did for Ruff Ryders that you submitted that got picked up for something?
Yeah, I mean, it was literally like I finally finished the paperwork, and like a week after I finished the paperwork, they called me up. They were like, we need you to go down to the office, which was like on 54th Street, I think, if I
Mm-hmm.
remember right. And they were like, we're gonna send a car, and it's gonna take you to the airport, and we want you to work on X second album. And I was like, oh, good, this is dope. I was mad excited, so I went and I had all my like my at that time, like I had like my little beat machine, my discs, all in my suitcase, and I went down to go and do this album and work on it. So I was actually surprised when I got there. It was a limo taking me, PK, and Grease to our flights to go work on X's second album. So that was like a big moment to me because I knew PK from Yonkers, and like we kind of knew each other.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote Pent and I wrote Shok, and we used to bomb in Yonkers. So like I knew him because he had some ups in Yonkers, and he knew me, and we both kind of knew of each other because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of when you have back then, it wasn't like now. Like there was three people that I know, no, probably like four, let's say 4 or 5 people who made beats in Yonkers. Like PK. The most notable would be like PK, J Blend, Lethal, and I would say myself probably. That were the most notable at that moment. That were kind of like if you were in Yonkers and you were an MC, you most likely bounced between these studios. So we knew of each other, and yeah, man, we went over there, and it was an interesting ride because I think this story has been out there, but they basically did the whole first album, and while I'm on the trip, on the limo, I'm seeing them a little bit like upset about something, and I think they were finding out that the whole album had basically been almost completed by Swiss, and no one said anything. They had sent Swiss out there for like a month, and they were just now like once the album was almost done, letting all the other producers come and submit music. So they were a little upset to me, and but that made sense to me. I mean, you did the whole first album, you know, basically minus one song, and then now you know you come in at the end. So that was a little bit of the tension of that trip, you know. But me, I was just at that moment, I was just happy to be there, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want to, so the things in the beginning, you're getting a feel for the label and you're getting your foot in the door. But I want to touch on X because we love him, man. We miss him so much, and you were part of that history with him. What was it like? Your first time meeting him. Like, did y'all meet in the studio? Just if you could give us a little bit of that.
Yeah.
What was your first
Well,
personal experience with X?
that's actually connected to this story, which I didn't really answer your question, but I'm gonna answer both of them with this one. So when I got there, right off the plane, basically, I went straight to the studio in California, which was Enterprise Studio. So off
Mm-hmm.
so off that trip, and I get there, and there was a little bit of that tension happening when we got there. So I just kind of took advantage of it, and I was like, well, I'm the new guy, and I'm not really a part of any of that. So so I went into a studio and I just kind of started playing beats, and people were like, oh, like, I was just trying to create something, you know? So I started playing beats, people started vibing, and then Swiss popped in, and he was like, yo, you got joints, right? And I was like, yeah, yeah. He went and got X came back, and then X, that was like the first time that I ever like face to face met X. And so he's, you know, listening to that, he comes and he's skipping through, and then he stops at the Slippin beat, and he just kind of listening to it. He looks at Swiss, and I felt like they were probably looking for a beat for these lyrics. That's the feeling I got at that moment. And he was like, yeah, that's it. And he was like, he looked at me, he was like, lay it. And I was like, wow, good. You know what I'm saying? I just got there, just got off the plane. So lay it back then basically means like now we take for granted, you just email the stems, the splits and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, lay it meant take the beat, play it off whatever machines you use to make it, and put it on a 2-inch tape. So when he said lay it, I immediately laid it to 2-inch tape, and like I would say that took me probably like an hour,
Uh,
maybe less, about an hour. But then right after I laid it, he went and he recorded Slippin'. So that night, I hadn't even gone to my room, and he had laid Slippin', and everybody was talking about it and like asking, "No, who's this guy Shok?"
but it's crazy.
Yeah,
So the same day he got the beat, he laid the record.
yeah. He had those lyrics for a long time. He originally did, far as I know, DJ Superior, which is like his original DJ, um, recorded those lyrics first on a beat, like basically in his crib, and that was like many years before, like maybe, like maybe 6 years earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And then the beat that I even placed with Slippin' was about 4 years old at the time, and I
I
had
was about,
actually,
I was just about to ask you that. I was just about to say, what year did you produce that beat? What did you?
yeah, that was like, yeah, 4 years old. So like in 90, 94, 95, around there. I made that beat, and originally recorded it as an R&B song with somebody, and it had just sat there. Nothing happened with that, and then it sat there for years, and a couple of my close people like they demanded I put that beat on the DAT, which I didn't really want to even do because it's funny. Like I felt like I heard X, and I had all these hype beats and all this, like real hard energy stuff.
So you thinking that's what he is gonna
So
want?
that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, I'm like, that's what he's gonna go for, and plus that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make like a banger like that. And so, I listened to my friends and the close people next to me, and when I was making the DAT, and I was like, all right, I'll put it on it, because the way I looked at it was they'll just skip it, or
Right.
maybe my people are right. And I was like, that's one thing I always tried to do, is like I always felt like when you're in the studio all the time and you're making music all the time, you gotta be open to what other people have to say, because they're the real listener. They're the real
Correct.
people listening to music. So like that's what I did at that moment. I thought that in my head. I said, well, they they listen to my stuff. They love hip hop. I was like, let me just put this on there, and thank God I did, because rest in peace, X. That's his magnum opus. He told his life story on there, and like you said, I'm fortunate enough to have one of the biggest records, period, ever.
Absolutely, man.
So
That's super 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 dope. And it's like you went into it when you were putting your stuff together. You went into it, just to reiterate that, you went into it thinking that this is not going to be something that he's looking for. You know what I mean? And whole time, this is something that he needed. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And this record, man, it's destiny, because for the way it happened, you could tell that it was nothing but God's purpose, because
yeah.
it was so therapeutic, and it was such an impactful record, to the world. You know what I mean? Not just hip hop, but the world. And I remember, you know, um, this is something I would always listen to the record. But of course, just to be honest with you, I didn't know that you produced the record until one day, I went and I just looked at the credits. I was like, who's DJ Shok? Like, I didn't know of
Mhm.
you, to be honest with you. And then I went and I, looked at your discography, and I was like, yo, this guy's dope. Like, he's produced some of my favorite joints. You know what I
Wow,
mean? And
man.
I
Thank you,
talked
man.
to you and bring you on the podcast, and then the time came in of X passing, and I just felt like it was the right time, like I explained to you earlier. But man, definitely, man, I think that's just super dope. Like just the way that came all together. Speaking of X passing, right? Um, the news, of course, devastated the world. Where were you, or how did you hear about him passing? And how did that affect you?
I was home, like I heard the news like everybody else, and it hit me pretty hard, man. Even though I don't have like a big, I didn't have a real personal relationship with him.
Mm-hmm.
We hung out like one time, and it's a funny story, like where like it was just me and him in the studio in Cali one time, and he was like, "Yo, let's go for a ride." We went for a ride, and he's like, I'm laid back and cool, and he's just like off the charts, like speeding through, just like
Man, oh my God.
going, yeah. And like for me, I was like, wow, this was a cool experience, but I'm not gonna do this again. So like, yeah, because this is not me. It's like, I
Mm,
mean, I'm not criticizing it. I'm just saying we all like have our own personalities, and it just
right.
that doesn't fit in for me. So like, I didn't have the relationship with him, but the fact that he made that record with me, and we did it together, and it meant so much to so many people, makes me feel like we had some type of a bond.
Absolutely.
and and I feel like so it definitely hit me, and it made me think, and it made me sort of thankful, um like very thankful for that experience, and to see what he did in this world, um and the unimaginable impact that he had on people in a personal way, like beyond music, and like how God used him.
Very
Because I
spiritual, man.
because
Very
I
spiritual
relate
guy.
I relate to him a lot, because in the spiritual path, because even though we were on totally separate journeys, um it's interesting, because he'll get a lot of judgment, because he doesn't walk that like legalistic line, let's say, when he was alive. Um, but man, he loved God, man.
Absolutely.
And so it's funny, because I ended up like later on after my whole like Rough Rider days, I ended up in like this kind of a religious cult basically. And they would not even, it was funny because they were so harsh and judgmental. And when I looked back and I saw that I had a, later on after everything and I got out of there, I looked back and I was like, you know what, man, God used me in such a big way and I was not even aware of it.
What was going on?
Yeah,
Right.
like, he anointed that song, he did something powerful, and it didn't have nothing to do with me. It didn't have nothing to do with me like praying, fasting, which is all the stuff, in the religious cult that I was doing. And it was just it just shows you like the beautiful grace, and I think because X went through so many things, and because he struggled so much, and you can see how he's an interesting person because you
Mm.
can see how he he's very sensitive, but he's also like very aggressive
At the same time.
at the same
Yeah.
time, and he's like very in tune with what's going on and why, but he's also like very strong, but he's also very weak. So he's like this paradox of all these different human emotions on full blast all the time. And it's like his life really, like people have said, prophets have said, like his life was prophetic, and it was a powerful life for the whole world, and had a big purpose. And I agree with that, I agree with that because I mean, for me, his life, even though we were separated, it made an impact on me in a way that I feel like it impacted a lot of other people, you know, and it's a beautiful thing because he loved God in an unreligious way,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think
And he
that
loved
is
people. And he
and
loved
love
people.
people. Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
you, you know, when I first met X, right, I was probably like 13,
Mm.
in the Bronx, and I was in like a bodega store, and we had skipped him in line. Me and my buddy had skipped him in
Oh
line,
wow, okay.
and we, he was walking. I guess what it wasn't even really a line. Like he was walking up to the counter, but you know how somebody's
Yeah,
not
like
really
when
close to
it's
the counter, and that's as it's a little space. And as a kid, he had a hoodie on and everything. And as a kid, you like, all right, cool. Like this guy,
hmm
this dude ain't at the counter. Like I'm about to swipe in, pay for my stuff, and get up out of here. You know what I mean? That's the kind of energy we give it. Um, and we cut in front of him. He was like, "Yo," you know what I mean? You know how I can't do his voice, but he's like, "Yo, what you?" And he's like, "You ain't see me standing here." I'm like, "Yo." So I heard the voice, and so you got this voice right behind you. And as a kid, I used to write DMX name on my phone, on my books and all of that. The bubble letters. I used to just write
Wow.
DMX all over my folders and stuff like that. My teachers would be like, "Yo, please, can you please stop writing DMX on your stuff?" Like, you know what I mean? So when I heard his
So
voice,
you knew it
yeah,
when
when
you
I heard
heard
his
him.
voice, I was like, yo, he popped like an image of him popped in my mind. But I'm like, as I'm getting ready, to turn around, I'm like, I know it's not him. Somebody just had a similar voice, and I turned around, it was him. You know what I mean? Me and my buddy turned around, it was him, and we was like, yo, like, you know what I mean? And he G checked us. You know what I mean? For jumping in front of him, about having respect, gave us a little quick brief. But then he paid for our stuff too.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Then he was like, the way y'all moving, I must be going to see some shorties or something. We lied. He was like, yeah, I got some girls over there in the park or whatever, whatever. We lied to him, like, you know what I mean? And we made it so we was going to do something more than we was doing. Um, but that was my first memory, and I was a kid, and I met him, and he was so humble, and I think he was by himself. There was a couple other guys in the store, but I don't know. I think he was by himself. Um, and that was my first. He was like, "Yo, I got it." You know what I mean? Like I stuffed whatever junk food, whatever we had. He told the person at the counter we had it, we could go ahead. And fortunate enough, what I do concerts and promotions and events. So a couple, down the line in my career, I was able to meet him again,
Mm.
and I was able to do events with him, do concerts and shows and stuff like that
Wow.
with him prior to him passing. And I didn't, even when I did events and stuff with him, I never, because, it's the business, you're dealing with the team, you're dealing with management or whatever. The artist is doing the show, you may have very little personal time to have a conversation and stuff like that. Um, and then we had did a couple shows in, and one night after the show, we had did an after party. It's like one of those nights. He's like, yo, let's go to the diner. Like, where's the food? I think we was somewhere like Boston or somewhere. You know what I mean? Where not much is open. He's like, yo, where the food at? You know what I mean? Like, where we going to get some grub at? And we ended up taking him to a diner. Um, and, when we sat in the diner, I just came out and, like, asked him, like, yo, do you remember XYZ? You know what I mean? And he was just like, and I went and showed him a picture of me as, like, a younger kid and all of that. And he was like, yo, I really remember that.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. He was like, I really remember that. He was like, yo, he was like, the kid you had with you was like a Spanish kid, right? Or whatever, with like curly hair. And I was like, yeah, that's my boy. Like, you know what I
Wow.
mean? And that was crazy to me because I'm like, such a small moment, right? A big moment for me, but such a small moment to a guy like that who would talk to anybody. The guy, we in the diner, he's talking to anybody. He's talking to the guy on the street outside the diner when we were walking out, like, yo, here's some money, get something to eat, like randomly. He would talk to people on a regular basis, and he didn't care who you were, what color you were, where you were from. He would, if you wanted to have a conversation, he would talk to you if he wanted to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, for him to remember that, it meant a lot. I know I'm probably getting sidetracked, but I just wanted to throw that out there that
No, that's a dope story, man. That's a
I
dope
had good
story, and
experience with.
the fact that he remembered it, you know.
Yeah, it meant a lot. I was like, yo, that's crazy. Now, you like, yo, I don't want to be that guy who's like, yo, you remember this? And then person's like, nah, I don't remember that. You
But
know what
there,
I
you
mean?
know what? There's a lot of stories like yours. You know what I mean? And they're all very similar. You know, a lot of people have a lot of stories, and I think that's one of the things that is going to keep his legacy alive because he did so much of that there's just so much of a foundation for people to be connected to him,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a great thing for his family and for everybody who's worked with him because he basically put in so much work that his legacy it's just going to continue, you
Yeah,
know.
humanitarian is what he was. And it's crazy because, even with, you know, the dark, what I mean, stuff and the battles and stuff that he went through, he still, and even though he was hurting inside, what I mean, most of his life, he expressed that. He was
Yeah.
still able to give love on to other people, man. So I just
Yeah,
think that.
and just not to like keep going and but
Mm,
one thing observation I made about X2 is that because I know the environment, you know, that he was in, and for someone to be in that environment and still push through to be himself the way he was, and to, to do prayers and to reach out to people and to be so vulnerable amongst the people he's always been around is like if you're what I'm trying to say is like if you're around a bunch of sensitive people and you open up, it's pretty easy.
right,
But
right.
he was constantly around hard rocks who just don't even talk. Who when you talk to them, it's almost like you're not even talking to them. They don't like there's almost like nothing inside them.
Right. I get where you
He
come
was
from.
around people like that 24/7 who will look at you funny for doing anything.
Mm.
Yet he was never scared to be himself. So there's a lot of jewels that I've gleaned from his life. Like yeah, a lot of things I wouldn't do, like like drive the way he drove. But there's a lot of jewels, man. There's a lot of
Uh-huh.
jewels that you can glean from the courage and that he had, to be that. I mean, people don't realize that. Like hip hop is like, and to still maintain like his masculinity with and still be able to do that is also a good modeling for the rest of us, you know. in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, before we move on, man, I enjoy talking about X, man. I really do. Um, if anyone who may be on the check and whoever got a chance to see him perform live,
Oh yeah,
and how you got people of all different races, or coming to see him, different backgrounds, I should say, and then you may go to some cities where it's nothing but what the streets call gorillas. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Come see him, but for him to be stop the show in the middle of the show and say a prayer and have the whole 2,000,
like
3,000, whatever
this.
in there like this. Dogs over here like,
Yep.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's quite a feat. Like that's
Some of the
quite a
hardest
feat.
dudes they
Yes,
may come across. You ain't never seen
yes.
pride. You know what I mean? To be able to bring that out of people, man, and
That's that's a
just
one in a billion, right there.
yeah. I've never seen, and I've been doing concerts and events for 15 years, and I've never seen not one. I've seen musicians, pray for people, send people prayers, especially like doing gospel shows and different things like that, where it looks good. But I've never seen people in the middle of a rap concert, any rapper in the
Yeah,
middle of a concert,
and I
stopping a
think,
show.
and I
Do that.
hate, I don't mean to drag it on, but and I think that's one of the amazing things about the ministry that he did have
Mm-hmm.
is because of that, and that's what lacks, like in like religious structure and in a lot of legalistic and rules and all that type of stuff, they
Mm-hmm.
lack that, and they could learn something from him too. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
He could learn something from them, but they, in my opinion, they could learn more from him because what is, you don't want to preach to the choir all the time. You want to reach people and help them and love them, and I
For who
think
they are.
he was a good example of that,
For who
and
they
he
are.
was able to, because most people are hurt. Most people that are outside of the church walls, they're hurt by the church a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times.
Uh-huh.
So when you have someone, but they don't have a problem with God.
Of course not.
They love God, and they
They're
pray
good
to God,
people.
and they trust God. So when you have someone like him who can just forget about that, let's not even address that. Let's just, you know, I'm I'm here. Let's just pray in the middle of this. And we all know he ain't perfect, and he wore that on his sleeve. So it's more inviting. I wish more people would model, that are in ministry,
Uh-huh.
would model him a little bit more, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I feel the same way. I feel the same way because sometimes you can go into a place where people may call it a place where it's the house of God and you get judged the most.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
you know what
And
I
you get
mean?
hurt.
So you get hurt and
You get hurt.
push people away from the church. So to be able for him to connect with people that way, man, we love you, X, man. We
Yeah.
love you. We miss you,
Word
man.
up. X forever, man.
You know, um, I think you probably recall your favorite memory. Moving on, right? You came from Yonkers as well,
Hmm.
and you know how Yonkers was, especially at that time. Coming from Yonkers, trying to make something of yourself, right? Shifting gears a little bit. How did it feel when you got your first plaque? You know what I mean? And what record was it for?
It's funny. I actually have that on video. When I got my first plaque, Randy from Def Jam gave it to me, and it was for X's second album, and I was complaining because I had seen him, and I was like, damn, everybody get you giving out plaques, and I was like, I don't have a plaque, and he was like, all right, he was like, I'm gonna, back when we get back to New York, he was like, I'm gonna send you a message on the two-way, but remember the two-ways? He
Uh
was like,
huh.
I'm gonna send you a message, and I'm gonna tell you to come pick it up because I'm gonna order it for you. So I have it's on video. Like I went and I picked it up at Def Jam, and I carried it with me because then I had a session that night with Cuban Link. So I brought it with me right over. Like I didn't, we just went right over there, and I brought it with me over there to the session, and I have that on video. Like when I walk in with it, and we're all like celebrating, about it. It's like basically it's Terror Squad and me and my boy Amori, rest in peace. and we're all just there, like, you know, it's like, oh shit, I got my first plaque, you know, and it was like, it was dope too, you know, like, and I was pretty busy at that time, like I was working with everybody, like Terror Squad, Flip Mode Squad, Ruff Ryders. I mean, I was even, and you name it. Like at that moment, I was basically everywhere.
Just doing your thing. Um, I know that, and what my show is about, man, before we move forward, is about giving people their flowers at the same time, shedding a light um, on your career and what you've given to the culture, what you've given, it could be music, anything, just impacting people. And a lot of times, I like to focus on people that were behind the scenes, people like yourself, producers, writers, photographers, you name it, anybody behind the scenes helping, these artists moving their careers. It's all talented people that come together to make something magical.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I like to shed light on people like yourself. And oftentimes, folks behind the scenes don't get the credit, that they deserve. And we see, just like recently, we see the Pete Rock situation. Looking to get paid from Illmatic, right? And you recently sued Ruff Ryders and went in court for royalties that was owed to you. And I know it may be a touchy subject, but I want to touch on it because so many people have experienced what you experienced. You know what I mean? And there's people that may be watching that want to be a producer. You know what I mean? And or doing that, and so they can kind of cover their tracks and don't make some of the same mistakes or that you may have made on the business side
Hmm.
of things. Um, you know, where do you think things went wrong for you
I, I would
at
say,
over at the label and the business side?
well, here I'm gonna give the advice. Yeah, Randy Acker, that's right, Gangu. Shout out to Gangu. Um, sorry, I was reading the comment.
Okay, okay, okay. We did.
So I want to just give and Gangu will agree with this. This will save your life. This is the advice. This is all you need to not have for what happened to me to not happen to you. Even if you sign a deal that isn't great, look, I'm not even going to get into that. Just make sure your lawyer puts in a couple sentences that say that your portion that's agreed in the agreement, let's say you're signed to a production company, a label, a manager, whatever you, whoever or whatever entity you sign to, no, whatever deal it is, 360, whatever. The portion that you're supposed to get according to that agreement goes directly to you. So what I'm saying is if $10 come in and you sign an agreement, even if you give half of it, I'm not recommending that, but I'm just saying, even if you give $5 to whoever you sign to, which is crazy, but even if you do, put
So your
language
portion come to you and not go to the label.
that $5, it doesn't because this is why it's important. If the $10 goes or yeah, like Gangu's saying, letter of direction. But see that the letter, but you won't be able to put, that's the letter of direction for life. That's what, Gangu's saying. That's the letter of direction for all the future letters of direction in that contract. So, and why it's important is because if they get that 10, right, and it's not going to you, it's going to take you going through pure hell. And I'm not exaggerating, man. Like I was just before, like I'm still going through it. You know what I mean? Like, because after winning, you got to collect. It's not something I would wish on my worst enemy. This
Wow.
fight, it's been so hard, and I decided to fight it. So, and I'm one of those people who one of my good qualities is I finish what I start. So I'm screwed. Once I put my foot on the gas and I'm going to freaking, even if I'm going somewhere that you need a boat, I'm gonna go as far as I can, and then I gotta find a boat. It's like it's a blessing and a curse.
Mhm, mhm.
So that's what you guys got to do. You got to make sure whatever you're doing, don't be like don't let any accounting firm handle it. goes to you. Because even accounting for, stash more cash than Burt Padell, rest in peace, Biggie and Burt Padell. But there's a reason he said that. You know what I mean? Burt Padell is rest in peace, one of the biggest accountants in the music business. And he said, stash more cash than Burt Padell. What does it mean that you're stashing cash? We know what that means. And he was the accountant for a lot of people. Get your money direct. That's the main thing. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm gonna cut you off, right? But so before we went this far, right? Did you ever try to reach out to anyone from the label and try to say, hey, listen,
did I? Yeah.
Lawyers and different things like that. Hey, this is what's
Oh man. Yeah. This is Gangu's gonna enjoy this because this is what he does for a living. So here's the thing. It's so easy. Actually, I'm almost scared to say this because it's empowering the bullies who do this to us artists. But it's so easy to be a bully in the music business. You start a corporation, a LLC, or a comma Inc., a S corp, whatever you want to do, whatever makes you happy. You start that company. You sign people. You don't pay them. You make agreement. You make what's foul is I signed an agreement that my lawyer said I can't represent you if you sign it, and I signed it anyway because the way I looked at it was because I saw it like this. At that moment, I believed, and even my lawyer was like, just because they have a couple hot songs right now, it doesn't mean they're going to turn into what you're saying. Because remember, I'm signing before the blow up. But I said, no, they're going to do it. And I explained it to him this way. Excuse me. I said, it's like opening a McDonald's. I'm signing to like a franchise. That's going to propel me. I'm going to get to work with artists that I want to work with, that I dreamed of working with. And then when that's done, I can do something different. And that was the idea. But what sucks is you can't, once the pipeline of money gets cut, it's very difficult to climb out of that, so anyway, I digressed a little, but I want to stay on your question. This is a very important question for other people out there. When it goes bad is, what was it? So what was it again? I digressed a little.
I think I pretty much said, like, did you ever reach out to anyone before you had filed?
Right. Yeah. So this is, and that's when I got into the whole corporate, right? But so this is, yes, I did. I talked to them. I was ignored. I had lawyers send, the cease and desist, which they throw away. Corporations, they can do that. It's all a joke. And the funny thing too is, like, I wanted to dispel the ignorance out there of, well, you should read what you sign. It's nothing to do with that. You know what I mean? You can read what you sign. You can sign a good deal, a bad deal. And this is the problem that we're fighting as a community. And I'm going to spell it out very clear. We're not, me personally, I'm not even fighting. My fight wasn't about you took 25%, you shouldn't have. My fight wasn't about none of that, any of that stuff. My fight was that you took all of it and you didn't give me any. And that's the fight that we should be on, because they can get away with that. They can just collect royalties. Because basically what will happen is, let's say a big company like Universal Music Group, they show the agreement they have with me, right, and all their other writers, and then they just hand that in, and then Universal's like, oh, great. They look at it as a streamline. They're looking at, oh, this makes my life way easier. So you're telling me, instead of cutting a check for 30 something writers and producers, I can just cut you a check for all of them, and you'll take care of that? Excellent. Great.
Easy work.
And then when Mike Gomez calls up Universal, it's like, yo, what's up? They're like, oh, we've been giving that to the people you're signed to. Don't talk to us. We can't even divulge any information legally to you. So now you have this trap you're in, and that's what we got to stop. We should make it, in my opinion, there should be some legislation that
Correct.
forces this paragraph I'm talking about to be in every agreement. Like you can't middleman. Like you can sign a bad deal. You can do anything you want. You can do, but you can't get.
Everybody check should go to them. That's
That's
just
the
what it
key.
is.
That's the key
That's the key.
because I could have got into, in my opinion, if that would have happened, I would have been able to build a little bit of something different on my own. But what happened to me was because they cut the pipeline. Because see, this is the thing. At first, for a producer, you're making good money without royalties because you know how artists always say I was doing shows and
Mm-hmm.
that's how I lived. For producers, is I was getting advances. So when you're charging 20K a pop or more, or sometimes 15, you're in this, and you know in one shot I remember I did a deal with Terror Squad. I sold like maybe 9 or 10, which puns were in that package, and that was a good check. And then I did another thing, a bunch with flip mode. Then I did, I was doing stuff that never even came out that I was getting front ends and back ends sometimes. Like that the artist got dropped. So I'm
Right.
making money, but then and I'm not even spending it foolishly, like like on jewelry. Like I don't even to this day, like I don't even like no disrespect to anybody who does it, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm like the type of person where I'm just like that. Like I'm not judging nobody, but that's how I am. I always been that way. So my point of the whole thing was not really to say that, but to say it's not like I would just trick my money on stupid stuff. I didn't have like an addiction. It's not like nothing like that. I was actually out of corporation. I was doing things the right way, but then the well ran dry, and I didn't expect it to, because I understood the business enough to know that, listen, I just did 5 million on this X album. I just did another three. I'm expecting hundreds of thousands within the next couple years,
Right.
2 or 3 years. And then when that doesn't happen, you get in bad spots. You file bankruptcy. You go from making money to not making money, and now you have to build up. So it's a very, very abusive practice, and it messes with your life. I've talked to other people, other producers. I'm not the only one. I'm just the only one
Absolutely
who's
not.
I'm just the only one who went the distance in court, who didn't give up. I'm just the only one who talks about it without worrying about repercussions.
Correct.
But I'm not the only one that it's happened to. And
Absolutely not.
my goal is, just and sometimes I don't know if I'm gonna go through with this because I'll be honest with you, I've been having a battle with myself about this. But my my plan, this I'm going through with, is a documentary coming. The paperwork is now being worked on. It's gonna talk about all this stuff. I have a good executive producer. I just don't want to say because it's not signed
Mm-hmm.
yet.
Absolutely.
But that I'm excited about, and I want to do it about the history of the music business, the way that it was set up. Because I make black music. You know what I'm saying? I'm Cuban, Puerto Rican, raised in a black neighborhood, loved hip hop, but I know I make black music, and the history of black music is that the oppressors oppressed from the
Correct.
beginning, and that culture and that tradition is what, because I make black music, I'm suffering from that because I'm a victim of it, of that oppression, because I'm in that culture and I'm making black music. So I'm in the same situation within music, and in no way am I saying like by race or anything like that. I'm just saying in music, and that's something I want to talk about in the documentary because we need to break out of that. We need to do better. We need to stop. We need to stop imitating the people that we hate. The people who robbed us. The people who did us dirty. They give us some crumbs, and then we become like them and rob our own. And we need to
Correct.
stop that. We need to, like, because the truth
We,
is,
we
like,
get involved and then we robbing each other. It
exactly.
doesn't make
And
any sense.
I'm very critical of Rough Riders, and even, even a certain producer sometimes, but we could have been, you know, like so much more as a camp. I mean, it's sad. Like if the greed and the cutthroat mentality and the like, starve the pups and the whole that kind of football team, let's kill each other and mentality. If we didn't have that and we would have been more like, imagine me with like a little label, Grease with a label, PK with a label, Swiss doing Swiss. And we're all like branching out like on some Wu Tang. You know what I mean? Like RZA is like one of my idols because he's so
Yeah.
intelligent and
Oh
because he
yeah.
did so many. I'm sure he's not perfect. I'm not trying to put him up there like a god or something. I'm sure he has his faults, but what I'm saying is
He
he
did a
repped
lot
for
of
his
great things
team
to
hard
blossom, for
and
everyone
he
to blossom.
blossomed it. He was wise and he gave everybody spaces to succeed, and it wasn't a thing where it always had to be him. You know what I mean? It didn't always have to be like RZA. It was
Mhm.
okay if this was ODB's moment. Everyone could shine, and that's the thing that Rough Riders didn't allow, especially with the producers. And I think it hip hop took a loss because I'm telling you, man, PK is one of the most phenomenal producers. I know, like I have and had. I was on such a roll. If you would have just let me rip, it would have been crazy. And I feel like, even Sheldon, he was an amazing young producer. If he would have been more developed, but it was just this culture of like just not an intelligent like why I respect RZA so much because he's very intelligent. Like he's very strategic. He thinks ahead. And Rough Riders was more of a like stick and move vibe. You know what I mean? Like a very like a jail vibe, like stick and move. Just let's go.
Do you remember what? Not to shift gears. Do you remember what RZA did with ODB?
Yeah, I love that part in the series, man.
Yeah, he
Oh my
signed
God,
him. He signed
that
him.
is
I forgot
epic,
what
man.
he
That is
signed
epic.
him. He didn't understand it. He was like, "Listen, you're gonna own your
You're gonna
masters."
own your masters.
And he
Now
was
his
like, "I don't
kids,
care. I want to be with Def Jam."
but you know what's not to cut you, but why that meant so much to me, that part in that movie, because I'm thinking of his kids. He's gone. Those masters are everything right now to his family,
Mhm.
and that's what made me like I have kids, and I was gonna give up my fight, and I'm not trying to be cheesy, and I'm not making this up. Literally, I was ready to give up, and I looked at my two boys one day, and I was like, you know what, man? They're not stealing from you. They're stealing from them. Because when I'm gone, those records I made, they still earn money. And there was even an article written that old music is making more money than new music
Yes, yes,
recently.
I've seen that. Hmm.
And I'm here to tell you because I've seen the statements through my case. It's true. Old music's still making money, and it's better money because it's your bet on old music is way better because it's already stood the test of time. Like if old
Timeless.
catalog is making like let's just put a number. Let's say 5,000 a year. You know, not meaning it's just a random number. If someone's catalog has made 5,000 a year for the last 10 years, guess how much it's going to make next year? 5,000. You can bank on these catalogs of old music. You know what they're going to do. So, and that is different than new music, where it's like,
It comes and goes. It's so
yeah,
a song is hot for 3 months now, and then it's on
exactly.
to the next.
So that was a big thing. The fact they had the masters, it's and it showed that he actually cared about uh the person,
Absolutely.
you know.
Yeah, man. RZA did a lot of
Yeah,
great
like
things
he
for, for the
He's
brand.
like,
It's a Wu-Tang, legendary.
Wu.
Um, do you ever think the love was genuine at Ruff Ryders at any point?
So I lost you there for a second. Do I ever think, what was
Did
it?
you ever think that Did you ever think that the love was genuine at Ruff
Um,
Ryders?
I don't know. It was a tough environment. Like we, if it's kind of like, um, you ever been through something with a group of people? Like only we know what it was. You know what I'm saying? Like as producers, like only we know what it really was, and no one else is ever going to really understand that environment and how it really was, and how difficult it was to get placements. How you had to. It was like very authoritarian, and the way you had to like play your lane, shut your mouth, let things go. Like you had to play the game, and it didn't have to. The sad part is it didn't have to be like that. That's the sad part. We were so listen, man. I'm lucky to have been with the R. You know what I mean, and had that moment. But I also made sacrifices to do it. But I want to go so far as to say we were all lucky. Every one of us, down to the engineer, to the assistant, to people who were just like the locks created that slang. They would say that kid is wing. It just meant people who hang around and don't do anything.
Uh-huh.
So it was like who's that? I don't know, some wing. It's like, and that's what it meant. So even they were lucky. Everyone was lucky to be around each other, to be in a moment like that, because it's a rare thing. There's not that many. You can look. There's Bad Boy. There's Wu. There's Murder Inc. And then you could go down. Whatever. We could probably name, if we sit here and work on it and go up to date. It's probably like 10. Sugar
I was
Hill.
about to say that.
There's
Maybe
like
10
10.
over
So
the
you got like
past
10.
20, 30 years.
You got 10 of those. So we were tremendously fortunate. And like I said, man, at this moment, right now, like, we're in a conversation, and I always feel like one of the things me and my boys say when we talk is like revelation through conversation. And I feel like as we're talking, it's going in a certain direction for a reason. And it it should not be repeated. Anybody out there, there's a good amount of people watching, and if I can send a message, if you have a company, you're doing good, you're a CEO, and you're listening to this, yo, you don't gotta jerk everybody. You don't have to trash everybody. You don't have to stick and move on everybody. I know you feel like you can't trust nobody, but you know what? If you want a friend, you have to be a friend. If you want love, you got to give love. And if you do that from the top, it's going to create that culture, and it'll change things. And you're going to have a better life because you're going to have people who actually care about you back. You're going to have a legacy that isn't a disgusting, horrible legacy. It's going to be something beautiful and powerful. And if I could say that, like if there's a purpose, because you know what, I've been, honestly, bro, you know, I've been through so much. I'm not trying to like, because we all go through stuff.
We keeping it real, bro. We keeping it real.
Yeah,
And
we all go
people
through stuff.
respect the realness.
I'm not trying to say like other people don't go, because everybody does. Even single mom with 2 kids don't even know what the music business is. She's going through it. We all go through it. But the sad part to me of what I'm talking about is when you got so much talent in a camp, and when you got so much power and talent and creativity and good energy, why corrupt it? That's all I'm saying to you. I'm not saying this to the R. I'm saying this to the youth right now.
In general.
I'm saying that to, if you're doing something now, I'm talking exactly to you. I'm talking to you. You right now, and it's popping for you right now. Don't do what they did. Do it better. And you know what's funny? You instead of a 3 or 4 year run, you might have a 30 or 40-year run, and you might even stick with those people and make cereal one day and do some other stuff and
branch out
and branch out and get tired of music and and do other things. Do
Yeah.
something like that. Don't be too greedy because it's gonna catch up to you, man.
But people
That's all
live
I'm
in the
saying.
moment, and that's the key thing. People live in the moment. People see sometimes, people see an opportunity. We keep it all the way real, and it's not to bash anybody, but we keep it real. Sometimes people see an opportunity, and they can't think past go.
They can't.
And sometimes people let where they come from, you know what I mean, and have to bring, okay, certain energy, like, okay, cool, I struggled. You know what I mean? I don't want to struggle no more. So I see this opportunity, and people don't, I don't know how long this is going to last. I'm going to take advantage and suck everything I could suck out of this opportunity, because guess what?
Yeah.
In any business, right, that you're in, it's a up, it's a down, it's a middle, it's a up again. So people think of, okay, cool. I know at some point this may go down. That's just
Yeah.
reality of any business. So I'm gonna take whatever I can take, get whatever I can get, and keep it moving. And sometimes not think about the people that you're hurting in the process. Man, in our culture specifically, we don't stick together. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And that's just what it is. We don't stick together. You can see, artists in different genres of music have such longevity and go out and do arena shows in their 70s and their 80s. You know what I mean? And still have a great team and still have a great response and have a brand and have something
Yeah.
that has lived the test of time. We don't get that because our people are just too greedy, and that's just the
Yeah.
fact of it. The fact of it all that people are too greedy because you have so many talented people that come together to create something so epic. You know what I mean? And just create something like that to for everyone not to be. You know what I mean? Everyone should be set. People's kids should be set off of things that
Yeah.
that was
But
created. But we,
the
we just it's greed, bro, and
and
that's just what it is.
another key is what you're doing on this show. For example, see a lot of the people with celebrity, they have it. They're also getting robbed, but they have a platform that they can get money in different ways, right? So they can act, they can get a certain amount of money, but royalty wise, I'm telling you, man, I've seen it. Everyone's getting
Yeah,
robbed.
yeah, and
So
the thing about it, that's why people use different ways to earn income because
exactly.
of that.
But what you're doing is good because if those CEOs and business, if they want to be real business people, if they would have realized that a big part of why your sound is so great is that engineer. Like to really realize that and appreciate it and take care of something, it's and not take it for granted. And to realize that a big part of why we flow is the studio manager. The way they keep it flowing, the way they make sure that this one has this and that this one always comes early and this one this and that these two don't bump into each other because it's always a problem. Like if you could actually count them, I'm not saying you got to pay them the same scale you're paying someone who has like a more rare um, talent or gift that's worth more because it's rare because that's all it is, supply and demand. Um, but I'm saying appreciate it, take care of it, and and like if something happens, because people make mistakes, try and stick together, try and work it out. Appreciate everybody. And honestly, man, that would make it makes a better work environment. Because I got to the point at a certain point, I had my studio from like '96, which ended up being D Block Studio. I sold them the key to my lease. I had it
Oh,
from
that
'96
was your
to
studio? I've been
yeah,
I've been there 100 times.
yeah. I opened that in '96, and then I sold them the key in like 2003. So I had it for like 8 years probably. And then I sold them the key because they were there all the time anyway. So, and she and me were pretty close. So I was like, yo, I don't want to like have the studio anymore. You guys are here all the time. You want to like take over and just I'll just we came up with a number and I gave them the key. So we I don't know. I think I'm preaching a lot tonight. Sorry.
No, you good, bro. You
But
good,
I
man. We
think it's
appreciate it,
important
man.
because honestly, man, like I wanted like I've been through so much in this shit that was unfair, and I'm still going through it. That's the thing. I won my, and I'm honest. Like I don't bullshit people. I won my case. It's a big number, but I'm on phase two, which is to collect it, which is a bunch of more bullshit. You know what I'm saying? And I want to educate people so they know what's what. You know, Pete Rock, he's going after Nas. He's at step one. He ain't unless Nas himself decides to settle. That's gonna go on for years. If it goes the normal route, that's for years. So it's like, you know, and the reason I said that is because that's why I'm preaching a little bit, because there has to be a point. What the hell I had to go through all this shit. Something gotta come. I gotta help somebody. Like it don't make sense to me no more. Like, what's the point? That's why I ask God, man. Like I'm keeping real with you. I ask God. Like, what is the point? You know what I'm saying? I'm a content person. That's why I'm a little bit like bugged out about it, because like I'm content with what I have right now. You know what I'm saying? Like I got a job, take care of my family, we go on vacations. I drive an old car. I make sure my wife has a brand new car though. But that's because that's the family car.
It's
That's the
part of being
family
a
car.
husband.
Yeah, that's the family car. You know what I'm saying? That the way I see it is for safety, for everything. They got the good car. But what I'm saying is I'm happy with the material I have right now. So I wonder, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what's the point? I ask God, like, what's the point? What's the point of this? Because it's not necessarily for the money. I'm still fighting. It didn't really bring me no peace. I don't like to think about this stuff all the time. The music business is traumatic for me. Once I start talking about it or remembering stuff, it makes me feel like shit. So sorry, I don't know if it's cursing aloud, but
Oh, bro,
okay.
we curse
So
all the
it
damn
makes
time.
me feel like shit. So I'm not even benefiting. You know what I'm saying? Like I love music, I love making it, but once I get into that, it's a weird thing. It's an element. It's a vibe. It's why I closed down my studio and I sold the key. It's not a good feeling. You know what I'm
The
saying?
business side,
It's
I've
not.
been doing this. I've been doing this for 2 years now, right? Doing my show, and I spoke to a lot of people, and it's the business side of things, and it's fucked up because the business side sometimes that makes people stray away from the music industry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of creators, a lot of dope people stray away, and the thing about it is, you do this because you love it. That's number one. Anything in entertainment, 9 times out of 10, you do it because you love it. Especially in hip hop culture, you do it because you really love it. You know what I mean? So you love it, but at the same time, like anybody else, you gotta make a living for your family. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And if you're a person that's staying on the integrity and what's right, then the days nobody want to get jerked. Nobody want to get fucked over. That's just reality of what it is. So if you do something and you give something to the world that's so great in what you've given, and by the way, you've produced a lot of records. And when we say Ruff Ryders, we're not just talking about DMX. You produce for Eve. You produce for the Locks. You produce for Drag On.
Yeah.
Who else is over there? You produce for a lot of
Yeah. I mean,
folks.
outside. I mean, I did. I mean, I've done. Rest in peace. Stuff with Pun. I mean, I did Remy
Yeah, I feel
Martin's
fun. All right.
her first record. That's me. Miss Martin,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of stuff, man. A lot.
So it just makes so it's a story that we hear time and time again, and it just sucks because people need music. This is something that everyone, right, no matter where you are from, we all come together when it comes to. I say two things. I say this all the time. Two things: music and comedy is what brings
Yeah.
people of all walks of life together because not religion, none of that other stuff. It's really music and comedy because it doesn't have any face. Anyone can laugh. Anyone can laugh. We all can laugh. We all can see something and it's gonna make us laugh no matter who you are.
Yeah.
So laughter brings people together and music brings people together. It could be music of sentimental, no matter what it
Yeah.
is. These are two things that bring people together. So when you can't be creative, when it takes away the business side, just fucks it up. And I'm glad that you have a purpose. You know what I mean, outside of music as well, because you've been through something and you're here to talk about it. You're here to teach somebody. You're here to drop
I
gems
hope
for
so, man.
folks. You
That's
know
what
what
I
I
hope.
mean? And we got people watching, and this my podcast goes on other platforms as well. So this conversation, other people will hear it as well. But I appreciate you for just keeping it all the way real and keeping it authentic
Thank you,
because
man.
people need to hear it. So somebody else can say, okay, you know what? I heard something that DJ Shok said, and I'm gonna know that I have to do this because guess what? Not a lot of people speak out. You'll see people say, "Oh, I got fucked over," and I hear that often. This happened or that happened, but you won't hear, this is what you do to prevent that from happening. You don't hear it, so we
Yeah.
definitely appreciate you, man. And
Well,
you
you
ain't
made me think.
preach.
You made me
You
think
just
of a
kept it
quote.
real.
Not to cut you, but you made me think of a quote. When you're talking about art, I don't know where it's from, but um, money will help you make a living, but art gives you a reason for living.
Wow.
And I believe that. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to make money to eat, but art and all forms of art, that movie will inspire you to start a business. You know what I'm saying? That song, like Slippin', will get you through a tough spot. And so art gives you a reason to live, but music, and music is a part of that. But you need money to make a living. But
Absolutely.
so you need them both, but it's a balance. It shouldn't all be about money and getting over on people. We got to balance it out. We got to get better, man. We got to heal. We got to heal as a community. We got to get better. We got to do better. We got to respect each other. We got to love each other. We need more love, man. We need more simple. We need more love. We need, when I criticize people, man, it might come across like I'm hating, but I'm doing it because I know a lot of people who's it's been done to and they don't say nothing. So I put it out. If there's something clear and it's where someone copies music or, I think it's important. I don't do it in a way to like, what's that? What do the kids say? Cloud chase or something? Like I don't do it. I honestly don't. I don't do it in that way. Like I do it in more of a way for awareness. Like, yeah, this
Perfect.
happened.
Transparency.
Yeah,
Transparency.
transparency. Absolutely. And we can, the tools are there right now. Like there's modern tools for collecting income and for music. The tools are there for the transparency. But the problem is, as the tools show up, the big corporations, they always come in with different ways, just like they did the streaming, they come in with different ways of manipulating the contracts and changing some language and so as we all it's really the point I'm making is there's never I got a good one. I gotta go. I hope we're not going too long. But
Yeah.
Chris Lighty, rest in peace. He told me something one time because he used to have a friend that lived in the same building as me, and we used to have talks and stuff. And we, every now and then I bump into him, we would just talk. And he gave me a lot of good life talks. Rest in peace, Chris. He was a really cool dude. And he told me something, and I was like, "You crazy?" He's like, "Yo, do you know?" He told me a few things that I wouldn't share that were like just business stuff that blew my mind. But he said something, and I was like, "Damn." He said, because I shared with him stuff I was going through with the business and stuff. He's like, I don't even have a contract with Buster. I don't have a contract with LL. And I was like, what? He said, I don't have contracts with nobody, with Nori, with nobody. He said, because, and this is what I'm talking to the community right now, because he don't need it. If they're not happy, he lets them go. And he's always doing good by his people, so he doesn't need a contract. And no matter what language or what paragraphs we come up with, it's on us to be better. Because we got to get to the point where it doesn't matter what it says in the contract. If you're not okay, let's talk. That's what we got to get to the point. We got to get beyond words on a piece of paper and There's no reason, man. We make music. You know what I'm saying? We're like,
This is something that is bringing people together.
yeah,
You know
there's
what I
no
mean? And you're
reason to be
giving
that
something to
way.
people. So it's like, it's the environment. It shouldn't be that way. And I totally get where you're coming from. You know what I mean? Like, cool. You know what? I'm unhappy. Let's have a conversation
Yeah,
and then let's see. And then and if we
yeah.
can't work it out, then we agree to go
And
our
and
separate
then
ways. And
and then maybe people won't get chairs thrown at them. Like you know, like that famous story of Styles throwing the chair at Puffy.
get that puff.
You know,
Mhm.
that's when the chairs get thrown because people don't want to be cool and just talk and look at all they had to go through just to get. Look at them, man. You know, three guys I know well. You know what I'm saying? I work with them constantly. We were at the studio together constantly in my spot. And three guys who had to go through hell and they still going through it because it still ain't right. So it's
Mhm.
like, because I heard SP venting on Instagram about, you know, how he's still not getting his royalties. And it's like, and look at what they had to, they had to like throw a chair, they had to make a campaign, let the lots go. Then they had to come to the R, which you know how that's probably going. And so it's like, and these are like iconic guys who stick together, who everybody respects and loves. And look at everything they have to do because of what it says on a piece of paper. You know, F the paper, man. Let's re let's renegotiate regularly. You know what I'm saying? But then as a businessman, that's stupid. Well, maybe we need less businessmen in music and more musicians, more music people. Maybe we need less businessmen. Maybe we don't need that over here.
Wow. Right. Right. Because the first thing somebody do is throw a contract in your face.
Yeah, maybe we don't
And the
need
thing
that.
about it, and the thing about it though, is that sometimes people are just eager to create. That people miss things. You know what I mean? You get a contract, and you're thinking that you're gonna, and that's just sometimes, you can't solely fault the person who's giving you the contract. And I'm going to
Yeah,
keep it real.
that's yeah.
You
It's not
can't, you
always
can't,
that way. It's
you
true.
can't solely fault that person because at the same time you got to do business. And sometimes you could think that okay, you coming in here, you coming to do something great, you coming to create something magical. It's a family, it's a team. Everybody's gonna win, and it's a unit. And you're trying to create something for longevity. But again, like we said, greed gets in the way, and people don't keep their word, and you know what I mean. And next thing you know, you sign an agreement, and you have a disagreement, and the first thing the person gonna do is say this. And you could be maybe 18, 19 years old when you signed that deal, and you didn't know much about the business then, but
Yeah,
you know a lot about the business now, and guess what? Bottom line, everything boils down to what's right, what's wrong. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So when you know more about the business side of this thing, you can say, okay, listen, you know what? This was wrong. Bam. Let's talk about it. This was
yes.
wrong. Let's make it right. Cool. Maybe at the time when you distributors, you gave me this contract, maybe you didn't know that this was wrong because
Yeah.
you learn every day, you grow. Maybe you didn't know that this was wrong, but this is wrong. Let's make it right.
And
You
it, it
just
and it's
you're not
better
gonna get that. That's when you go through that. That's when you go through the
because
battle. You're just not gonna get that.
it's true. There is a balance. You know, like we got Butterfly Media commenting, people don't keep their word, so you need on paper, and it's true. So we need it, but all I'm saying is we like exactly what you're saying. We need it. We do it. We do the contract, but later on, if you talk, you should be able to communicate. Like for example, here's a cautionary tale for all you guys out there. You know that are corporate. Look at me. I went the distance, and look at the amount that came out of my case that now a company has to deal with. And I wanted to do like the proverb says: when you're on your way to the courthouse, try to settle with the person because you don't want to do it in court. I tried to settle. I tried different things. I talked. I sent emails. I showed them I had proof so that they know it's not a game. Like I really have proof. I know what you're doing. Ignore, ignore, ignore. So what I'm saying is, any way you slice this, if you want to be a loving, decent person, or if you just even want to be a smart business person, at this point, because of what my case did, it even changes the business side of it because they're paying, the case, it's punitive interest, which is costing them more now. So it's like, is that even, You know what I'm saying? It's not even good business. It's not even good business to ignore anymore. You know, so it's it's always a good idea if you're having an issue with somebody, work it out, talk to them. Because I would have. Truth is, I would have settled for way less without going to court. Like if they would have just talked to me, we could have settled this. It would have cost them almost nothing, and they know that. They know that because I was fine to do that because I didn't want all this drama. I didn't want it. Like you know, I'd rather be in peace. But like I said, one of my faults is I finish what I start. Once I set my foot to go to court and to push this, I was gonna follow it through. Even if it kills me, I'm just like that. It's a gift and a curse.
Well, man, you know, um, I want to tell you that, man. You know, don't give up on music because of the business. You know what I mean? Don't give up on being a creator. It's therapeutic. You know what I mean for people, and you know everyone else appreciates what you've done and what you've given to
Thank you, man.
the culture. You know what I mean? The records you've given us, and you know we appreciate you giving you your flowers. We tell you that we salute you. Um, you've accomplished a lot, and you should be proud of that.
Thank
You
you,
know what
bro.
I mean? And
Thank
you
you.
know, at the end of the day, is you know, you came on here, you kept it real. I wasn't sure, you know, all the way how the conversation was gonna go, um, but you kept it real, and you know, you 100% honest, and we appreciate you, Shok, man.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
man.
once again, man, for joining me, man. I know that for sure through this conversation, we inspired someone. That's
Yeah,
what it's
man.
about.
That's
You know what I
I
mean?
hope
Each
so.
one teach one, someone was able to get your message and understand. And you know, it's not a bashing campaign. That's not what it is. You know what I mean? We're not here to bash anybody, but you know, this is your truth. You gotta walk in your truth, man. So, man, I appreciate you once again, man.
Same,
You
man.
couldn't have, you know. And in closing, you know, I always like to ask my guests, you know, when you're gone, what do you want your legacy to be?
Man, that's a great question. I mean, I'm hoping now that, because I'm sort of turning a different page in my life. I'm 47, and with the case and me doing the documentary, I want to help, if I can, I just, I want to survive it though. I don't want it to drain me and stress me the hell out. But in a
Catch a heart
balanced
attack.
way, God willing, if God can help me balance out my life and give back. That's what I want to do. I have an idea to do something called the Shok Fund, where people will put money into that fund through different, maybe an event, different things to raise money, and then that fund will be with my attorney, not with me. And then whenever people call my attorney and are like, "Yo, I'm going through something," they're not paying me, but I don't, because this is the problem. Why was it so hard for me to do what I did? One of the reasons is, every lawyer wants a bunch of money up front, but you're not making money because they're not giving you your money. So you can't. So
You need money to make money.
so you're in a
That's real
spot.
life.
So this fund would be like they'll call, they'll explain everything to the attorney, and then the attorney will look into it and be like, wait, this guy has a good case. This is legit. They're not doing right by this guy. And then they make an application to pay for the legal fees out of the Shok Fund to help this person. And
Yo,
it'll be like for us to help straighten things out for people, because there's a lot of people, who are in jams, and they have nowhere to turn, and they just give up, because you got the thing people don't realize is you also got a life to live. You know what I'm saying? You also got to, besides this music business and the money you're not getting and the fight you're trying to do to get things straight, you still got to live a life outside of that. And it's like,
every day.
and that's what the hope for me is, that if I can, my two hopes for my legacy is that I get back all my stuff 100%, because I still don't have my stuff back. Right now, they're still collecting it, and I could give that to my kids. And then the number two that I would like to give to the rest of the world is to leave some things behind from what I went through that can make it better for the next generations. That's
Yo,
the two things I would like the most. Because you know what, I already, I mean, not to be, like whatever, patting myself on the back, but I've already made quite a mark as a producer. I've you know, I made a song
Take
Beyond My
that. Take
Wildest
that. Pat
Dreams.
yourself on the back.
So, you know, I'll be happy to do it again, but I did it, and if I did it again, it would be gravy. But this other stuff at this point in my life seems like, you know, as we age and we go through different points,
Your purpose
it
changes.
changes exactly, and that's what I'm feeling like.
So you
It's
change, you
different.
know, and you want to make a difference in different ways,
Exactly.
and that's what, and let God use you to do that.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly,
mean?
and that's the hope. And shout out to Incognito, man. Incognito's been having a lot of positive, encouraging comments.
So shout out to everybody on the check-in. You know that, you know, I pray that everything you set out to do.
Thank you,
Um,
man.
I hope that all of that comes true because you really want to help people, and it'll be kind of dope, some type of union. You know what I mean? In this business, you know what I mean? There's so many different things that can be done to help people just have a
Yeah,
smooth career and
and
have a smooth transition
the important thing
afterwards.
is to
You know what I mean?
actually have those talks, because it may not look like a union. It may look like something else, but if we all a bunch of smart people and we sit down and we're just like, what's the goal? Instead of like, let's do this, let's do that, let's do that. We all get in the room and say, all right, what do we want? Well, we don't want this to happen anymore. We don't want stories, like former rappers, doing GoFundMe's and then passing away. You know what I mean? A week later, like we don't want that to happen anymore. Okay, we don't want this, and then just put that down and like talk it out. Like, all right, like how do we stop that? Well, we need something for that. We need something for this. We need something, and maybe we just walk at it. Maybe it's as simple as a bunch of funds. Maybe it's just that simple. A bunch of funds, and there's certain requirements. Like if you were this standard of an artist, and you would have to show you're in this type of a jam, there should be something there, man. Like we got to take care of these people. Like everybody's always saying this person inspired me, or this person did this and this person did that, but a lot of times they're talking about people who. Marley Marl was on the show the other day, man, and he was saying how when Kanye sampled one of his tracks, it saved him financially. It's like Marley Marl. I mean, this
So a lot
guy's
of
the
guys, it's
reason.
a lot of people behind this starting this culture
Yeah,
of
he's the
hip hop
reason. Like
that
we
are
chop up and sample. Like think about that. The guy who's the reason that I take a sample, chop it up, Marley Marl. He was saved because Kanye samples. That should not be, man. That should not be. That's something we should put our head, like as a community. When you hear that, you should put your head in the sand, man. Like we should be ashamed that that's something that exists in our community. That Marley Marl even says that. Like that's a shame to me, man. Like I don't know, man. I'm in a little
and
bit in
and,
my
and,
feelings,
and,
but
and,
it's a shame to me.
and it's some people, it's people names that I don't want to mention because I don't know if they ever spoke about it publicly, but it's people that that really behind hip hop culture that started this that are struggling,
Yes,
at
even
different points,
even that. Yeah, like
struggling and have
pioneers.
gotten broken promises, from the hip hop
Yeah.
community saying, "Hey, listen, I'm gonna, we're gonna give you this. We all gonna come together. and We're gonna give you this, for thanking you for what you've done, and because without you, it wouldn't be no us." And those promises have been broken. You know what I mean? So, Shok, man, thank you, man. Thank you once
Thank
again,
you,
my
man.
brother. In
Appreciate you.
closing, man, thank you for coming on here. Thank you for keeping it real. Once again, man, everyone who tuned in, if you missed any part of this conversation, it will be available tomorrow at 10 a.m. On Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, the video will be available on YouTube as well, man. Thank you,
So
thank you once again, my brother. We will talk soon. And
thank
may
you, brother.
God continue to bless you. I'm glad
You
that you
too,
came
man.
over this with COVID, you know what I mean? And
Yeah, man. I'm getting
still
better.
here, man. So blessings to you, your wife, your family, man. Blessings,
Thank you. You
brother.
too,
Thank
bro.
you, man.
Thank you.
We talk soon, man.
All right, man. Peace.
All right, peace.